Okay, everybody, we are back with a brand new Cabral Concept. Today, episode 3344 on how environmental obesogens are actually making people gain weight. So let's get into it. What are environmental obesogens in the first place? Well, these are literally chemicals in the environment. They are man-made, but they're the things that you've heard about probably in the news. They're the phthalates, right? The parabens, the benzenes. All of these things do what? They upset our delicate hormonal balance. And for the most part, it affects women more than it affects men, simply because they use more products and they are exposed then to more of these carcinogens and environmental obesogens. And an obesogen really just means that it is a chemical from the environment that leads to obesity, which simply means just gaining weight. Now, again, if your BMI is a 27 versus 30, okay, technically one's overweight, one's obese, but I don't think that the names matter. I honestly don't. People struggle to be at a healthy weight, and I simply want to help them end that struggle. That's really what it's all about. So for the most part, here's one of the biggest things that it causes. So an environmental obesogen disrupts hormones. We'll talk about what else it does. The second point that I'm going to bring you today is actually pretty wild, and it's new research as well. So I want to share this with you. But one of the biggest things that it does is that it can mimic estrogen. And we know that if you are estrogen dominant, so if your body sees more estrogen inside from estrogen production or the increase in adipose tissue, which is fat, right? Fat stores, fat tissue, the greater the amount of cortisol and or estrogen is produced. And when that happens, what are the symptoms of high cortisol or estrogen dominance? Meaning estrogen is dominant over progesterone. It's partner-based hormone. Well, what happens is people get more water retention, more body fat gain. They can end up with sleep disturbances. They can end up with bloating. They can feel lower mood, lower energy, irritability, anxiety, all of this because estrogen levels are rising. And estrogen doesn't just rise from natural hormonal production in the ovaries and or a conversion of testosterone to estrogen as well. How can it actually occur? Well, these healthcare, I say healthcare, I shouldn't say that. It is more like bathroom-based products, cleaners, soaps, shampoos, skincare routine, all of those could be loaded with these chemicals. Now, one way to check to see if it's a clean product or not, you can go to an amazing website called the Environmental Working Group, Skin Deep. So ewg.org/skin deep. We'll link it up for you at stephencabral.com/3344. Why is it great? You can actually check the products you may be using to see the score that it's given. Now, sometimes it says not enough data available. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad product, but sometimes we want to be a little bit, just at least a little bit leery about products that are not yet, we don't have data on. So feel free to use that website and absolutely check it out. All right, the second issue is this, and this is the one I want to share with you. Not only can environmental chemicals increase hormone production like estrogen, but it can actually increase the size of your fat cells, but also create new ones. Now, this is a little bit controversial and a little bit of new research. And the reason is we're typically thought to create these fat cells when we're younger, right? Our adipose tissue, and that's kind of set. And we don't necessarily develop more, but what we do is we increase the size of those adipose tissues. Well, new research says that's not necessarily the case, that these these chemicals, so I don't want to call them like natural in any way, shape, or form, can actually not only increase the number of fat cells, the adipocytes, but actually create new ones, which is adipogenesis. So pretty wild, in the news, and here's one example. So there is a product used in pesticides and also antifungal treatments, which are also used on crops as well, that stimulates a specific pathway that leads to fat cell differentiation and can actually increase the number. So pretty wild. All right, the third way that these environmental obesogens can cause weight gain is they can actually slow the body's thermogenesis. That means slow the body's metabolism. Its ability to burn calories while at rest or while you're exercise. So if your calories go down 100 or 200 calories a day, that means if you eat the same amount of calories slowly over a month, you're actually going to gain some weight. even eating the same amount of calories, which is pretty wild, right? Because your thermogenesis, your metabolism has gone down in non-stick cookware. So if you're using Teflon pans or any non-stick, there is a PFOA chemical in there that can actually lead to this. So pretty wild there as well. Number 4, environmental obesogens can cause food cravings as well as increased appetite because it messes with your natural leptin and ghrelin levels. So I have a whole podcast on leptin and ghrelin. Leptin is your satiety hormone. If it's low, you don't feel satiated, right? And so that is one of the issues, is that these chemicals can force leptin to start to go low and increase ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. If you don't know about these, I would love you to check it out. Again, I'll link that up at stephencabral.com/3344. Artificial sweeteners, MSG, and other chemicals can increase these cravings and not make you feel full either. All right, obesogens can disrupt your gut microbiome. So we talked about this before, but glyphosate in things like Ready Roundup disrupts the gut bacteria, and then favoring specific strains. I've talked about this on a show too, on Bacteroides and Firmicutes. And if these bacteria are imbalanced, you're going to gain more weight rather than lose. It's pretty amazing. In mice-based studies, when they actually transferred different types of bacteria, the mice gained weight or lost weight based on the bacteria they had in their gut. So pretty wild. That happens with glyphosate exposure, which is pesticides on conventionally sprayed food. This is why, a lot of us in the health industry are very much against pesticides, right? That's why we're for organic. It doesn't change the macros, but it does change what's sprayed. But the other one also is artificial sweeteners. Things like sucralose can do this as well. All right, number 7 is thyroid impairment. So heavy metals, lots of shows on thyroid. I have a whole course on thyroid at stephencabral.com/courses, lots of podcasts on thyroid. It's important because thyroid essentially is the equivalent to your metabolic rate. If you have a slow thyroid, which means an elevated TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, you are going to have a lower metabolic rate, which means you burn less calories. Not only that, you're going to have cold hands, cold feet typically, thinning of the hair, low mood, low energy, brain fog, dry skin. It's not ideal. But the nice thing is all of these things are reversible. Here's one of the issues, though, from the environment that affects the thyroid. Mercury, fluoride, chlorine, bromines, all of those things, I could go on, cadmium, all of these things very much harm the thyroid, and it's actually quite simple. Most of those that I just named as heavy metals displace iodine. And without iodine, you don't make thyroid hormone. So some of these are very straightforward, but again, your medical doctor will never tell you these specific things. So my goal here always on the Cabral Concept is never to scare you. That's not the goal. But it is to be aware, because so many people struggle as to why they can't get healthy or why they can't lose the weight. And I would say those are one and the same. If you are 30 plus pounds over your ideal weight, unfortunately, it does lead to higher amounts of inflammation, and it may shorten your life. And I don't want that for you. It's definitely going to shorten the quality of your life, most likely, because you're more inflamed. So it affects everything. It disrupts your hormones, as I just spoke about. So what I'd love you to be able to do is figure this out. There's a great lab. I can link it up. It's called the environmental toxicity test. But again, if you don't want to start there, that's okay. I totally get it. But there are labs that actually show you this. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't think I have any of these. Totally get it. Understood. You can run a minerals and metals test for heavy metals. You could run the environmental toxicity test to see if you do have any parabens or phthalates or benzenes or acrylamides or any of these things, right? Atrazine. So I can link up the labs today. I just can't link up anything else that would be how to fix this. I know that's pretty wild, but the FDA doesn't allow that. But what I'm going to do, I want to do a follow-up show for you next Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. And I'll talk about how to detox these environmental obesogens from your system as quickly as possible. The nice thing is when they start to leave, all the inflammation, the oxidative stress, the hormone imbalancers begin to rebalance to normal. That will allow you to lose weight without as much effort, because some people are putting in massive effort. I think there should be an effort, right? But I don't think it should have to be massive in order to return your body to its natural metabolic state. So I'll bring you that show next week. For today, all the takeaways, the labs, I'm going to link those up at stephencabral.com/3344. And if for some reason, if we ever miss a link, just write in at cabralsupportgroup.com. We'll answer it for you. We'll get you that link. All right, take care, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Cabral Concept. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything. Functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.